Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm doing a request deck from one of my subscribers, and that deck is Mono Green Cloudpost. Now, I've played this before on my channel a couple of times. Essentially what we're trying to do is play a Cloudpost, copy it a bunch of times and make Glimmerpost and stuff, and tap for ridiculous amounts of mana in order to cast the biggest, meanest creatures in Magic the Gathering. So that's Emrakul the Aeons Torn and Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. We also have Emrakul the Promised End, which is something that I haven't actually played with in Legacy before, so I'm curious to see how this one pans out. We have an Eye of Ugin to go and fetch it, but let's go through the green spells first. So we've got Crop Rotations, these help us find lands. Elvish Reclaimer, this helps us find lands. Expedition Map, helps us find lands. Once Upon a Time, helps us find lands. Pithing Needle, stops us getting wastelanded. And we've got this Green Sun Zenith to help us find specific things. And this Primeval Titan, which basically if you cast Primeval Titan, you should probably be winning the game as a general rule. We've got 3 of them in here and the 4 Green Sun Zenith to find them. We have 1 Endurance in the main with more in the board. And we have a Ramunap Excavator and a Collector Ouphe as our silver bullet targets for our Green Sun Zenith. Now the Ramunap Excavator is really important because it lets you rebuy the Glacial Chasm over and over again. And it's obviously very good with Elvish Reclaimer when you're putting stuff in your graveyard, you just get it back for free. But setting up enough turns to turtle behind a Glacial Chasm can be really important, which is what the Ramunap Excavator can help you do, as long as you can dodge the removal spell at the right time. As for mana base, we've got a few things to talk about here. Cloudpost, obviously, there is 1 Dark Depths, because we're playing a couple of Thespian stage, because these can copy Cloudpost and Glimmerpost, as well as the Glacial Chasm. So we've got a couple of Thespian stages in here, so we might as well have 1 Dark Depths. So if we cast a Primeval Titan, we can go and get both halves of that combo and make 2020. And if you know my channel, you know I love a good 2020. We have a singleton Bojuka Bog because we're running Crop Rotations and Reclaimers, so it's so important to be able to nuke a graveyard, so why not have this? A couple of Boseiju, so we've got main deck answers to things like Blood Moon. A singleton Cavern of Souls that we can go and find, and then hard cast these Primeval Titans with it, and they'll be uncounterable, and that'll be great for us. We have a one-off Karakas, which we can use to bounce our own Emrakuls and stuff to keep rebuying the turns. So sometimes you'll get in a situation where you just want to take infinite turns, and you can do that with the Emrakul and the Karakas. That's like if your opponent's got something where attacking once with an Emrakul isn't enough, you can attack once, bounce it, recast it, and then go again. So you can grind all your opponent's resources away that way if they've got a seasoned Dungeoneer that you can't block or something, and they will be able to kill you on the backswing. There is a single Misty Rainforest in here, which I do not really know why it's in there. I think it's there because you can use it to pump your Elvish Reclaimer slightly. So sometimes you might want to get a thing. You might want to get this 1 fetch land to then sacrifice to go and get another land to try and get through the lands in your deck, so you have more in your graveyard, so that you can have this as a 3/4. I think that's probably the only reason there. Interestingly, you have 2 Yavimaya. So when I was playing this deck, I found sometimes quite often I'd be getting the Yavimaya off of Crop Rotations just to help smooth things along, because we have a lot of green requirements, but not necessarily the most amount of green sources. So this helps without having a couple of these. And if you have one and you draw another one, then you can just send it to the Reclaimer or the Crop Rotation zone and get rid of it. Glimmerposts, this is a post, so it's going to be working with your Cloudpost. I think that's pretty much it for the lands to talk about now. Obviously Vesuva's kind of similar to Thespian stage, but slightly different. But I think we've spoken about that enough. Let's just have a quick look at the sideboard. We have the rest of the Endurances, which are going to be for Delver matchups, as well as Reanimator. Now, we could have played a more dedicated form of Reanimator hate, like Leyline of the Void, but the Endurance is something that we can fish out with Green Sun Zenith, and it's just better against Delver, when I'd rather have more stuff that's good against Delver than stuff that's good against Reanimator. We got 4 Force of Vigor because, Blood Moon, back to basics, stuff like that can cause us a little bit of trouble, so being able to hit those down is pretty good, and we got plenty of green cards to pitch to it. 4 Carpet of Flowers because Wasteland is a thing. Now, I'd kind of be tempted to have 3 Carpets and 1 Tabernacle here, because that's kind of the big utility land that we're missing here. But I'm going to go with this list that I was sent. So we've got the 4 Carpet Flowers. So when our opponent's trying to Wasteland us and stuff, we can use these to help get over the fact that we're losing lands to stuff like that. And we have 4 Mindbreak Traps for the turn 0 combo decks, or turn 1 combo decks, like Oops All Spells and the Epic Storm, Epic Gamble, that sort of thing. All right. That's it. I don't think there's anything else to say about it, other than let's get into a league after I do a little plug. Like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing. They help me out. Please do them. All right, let's play a game, a league even, of mono green Cloudpost. Alright, our opponent is a Yuri on deck, which means it's probably going to be somewhere between like Breakfast, Espovile, maybe D&T, possibly the blue sun, the green Sun Zenith blue deck. I think we have to keep this because we've got Cloudpost, we've got a 2-drop in the form of our green Sun Zenith into our Elvish Reclaimer, so I think this is a keep. Our opponent is most likely to be on a slower deck because they are a Yuri on deck. A Wasteland. Understood. Underneath that. This looks more like Death and Taxes, so could still be Espovile, but they tend not to have that many Wastelands because they're sporting a 3-colour mana base. Playing out our Cloudpost on turn 1 doesn't feel like a great play. A Yavimaya, Cradle of Grace. Okay, I think we're just going to play out this expedition map here. If we play out our Cloudpost, we know it's going to get hit. So we don't really want to do that. We don't have the most amount of tools for this matchup, to be honest. The idea is that hopefully the game lasts long enough that we just do our stuff that goes over the top. Because our opponent is a relatively fair deck, but they have a good ability to restrain our resources. Basic Plains into Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, so we might not get the most amount of time here. So what is this going to find? Presumably Cauldra. I think in the blind that's what you go for because it's the quickest clock that you can present. Even though it's now weaker due to Haywire Might, because that actually exiles it. Yeah, there's the Cauldra complete. So we can't really answer Stoneforge Mystic unless we draw a Pithing Needle or something. So we need to draw something good here. Elvish Reclaimer. How can we get more mana in a quick space of time? We don't have a Maze of Ith. And obviously they've got a Wasteland, so getting a lot of other things is going to be a problem for us. I think we play out the Reclaimer here, and then we have a choice of what land we play here. If we play out the Cloudpost now, it will definitely eat a Wasteland. And if our opponent doesn't have another mana source, then that will delay the Cauldra for a turn, but obviously delays us for a turn, so it's kind of a wash that way. But we're going to have to work through this Wasteland at some point. Now, if we wait till this guy untaps, then we can shuffle, then we can get rid of anything that they try to Wasteland. But because this is the one that comes untapped, I think it's correct just to play this one out. And if they want to Wasteland that, that's a Wasteland we're going to have to get through at some point. So I think we just have to let that happen. Whereas at least next turn when we play out a non-basic, we can activate our Elvish Reclaimer if they tried to do anything. Now, we're not going to have a lot of turns because they're going to be putting Cauldra in our face in the very near future. I suspect we probably lose this game 1. Yep, here comes the Cauldra. And they Wasteland us. Sure. So they kill us in 4 turns, including this one. So what is our plan here? So we've gotten rid of the Wasteland now, so we might be able to do a Glacial Chasm Turtle and sort of hide under that for a few turns. But we need to get up to Primeval Titan if we want to win this game. That's going to be a little bit challenging, given that we're only at 1 land on turn 3. Boseiju can't hit your own things, by the way. So we can't hit our own expedition map if we just want raw amounts of cards, raw amounts of lands in play. What is our best play here? Play out Boseiju, sacrifice it to go and get a Cloudpost. Probably that's what we're doing. Or we can get the... We can either get a Cloudpost or we can get the Glacial Chasm. But that sacrifices our other lands. So that's going to set us back even further. Someone like a Maze of Ith or similar would have been useful in this deck as an option, but that's not something we get to have here. Recruiter of the Guard. That's a good one. We're just going to find... Could just be a Flickerwisp because they've got an Aether of Island 3, so they can just reset their Recruiter that way and just get another card deeper. So it's just kind of free to do that. That'd be my expectation of what they get here. And if they've got Solitudes in their deck, they'll Flicker it now, and then at end step they'll go and get the Solitude. Or they might just keep... Okay, they're getting the Solitude now instead of the Flickerwisp. That seems an odd choice to me. Maybe they only have one... No, they must have more than one Flickerwisp in a Yorion build. So if we get a single Glimmerpost, it can change the clock, potentially. So I think we have to get a Cloudpost this time around. Okay, a Basic Forest. So we can go and get... So if we play our Basic Forest out here, then we go pay 2, and then turn one of them into a Cloudpost. And this will tap for 4. That works, right? So if we play out this here, we sacrifice these 2 for a... We pay 2, sack this for Glimmerpost, for Cloudpost. Then we can also crack the Expedition map this turn for like a Glimmerpost. And then this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, play the Yavimaya 6, cast Primeval Titan. Okay, so we can cast Primeval Titan next turn. We just need to survive one more turn. I think if we can cast a Primeval Titan, we'll win the game. Because if you cast a 6 mana spell in Legacy, you better hope you're winning the game. Alright. Wasteland is something I would really, really like to avoid. What have you got for us? An Umezawa's Jitte. That is not great for us, but fine enough. As long as they don't have a Wasteland here. So we can soak up 3 damage here, if we want to. We probably don't get a chance to soak up any more damage for the rest of this game. So I think we go to blocks, and we'll soak up 3 damage here. So we'll go and get another Cloudpost, and then we soak up 4 damage here. So that's pretty good. And now we can sacrifice this, and maybe we can win this one. We're relying on Primeval Titan to do a bit of work, but if you're familiar with Primeval Titan, it definitely does work. So, what do we need to do here? I think we need to get Glimmerpost for the next turn. We're not playing the Glimmerpost this turn because we need a second green source. But we're going to want a Glimmerpost soon. Okay, so going to 8. So 5, 6, 7, 8. Possibly something coming in off the Ether Vial. We're probably supposed to play out this Boseiju. And then we'll cast this guy. 2, 4, 5, 6. Yes, I would like to use its abilities. So, what is the play here? Possibly we do need to get the Chasm, because I'm not expecting this Primeval Titan to live. Or we can just go and get 2 Glimmerposts straight into play now, gain ourselves 8 life. That's probably good. And then next turn we can... So if we lose 1 Cloudpost, this will still be tapping for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can still cast a Green Sun Zenith next turn as well. So if we just go and get Glimmerpost and Glimmerpost. If we try and turtle behind a Glacial Chasm and we get Wastelanded, that's going to be pretty bad for us. And their removal tends to be things like Solitude and Swords. So if they remove this, we'll at least be able to gain a bunch of life off of it. And we're just kind of treading water until we can make an Emrakul here. Which won't be too long. Yep, so here's the evoked Solitude. This puts us up to 23. Like, they're going to get a Jitte with counters on, but that's a lot weaker. Oh, okay, they're going to Flicker Wisp their Solitude as well here. Yeah, sure. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 damage, but we're going up to 23 here. Wait, what have they done there? 3. Oh, I'm getting my Primeval Titan back. What? Why have they done that? It feels like a massive error. Okay, our opponent's conceded. They must have misclicked on their Flicker Wisp. I was going to say, you exile our guy, and then you Flicker Wisp your Solitude, so you get to keep it around. They must have clicked on the wrong thing and exiled our Primeval Titan. So we just get it back, gain a bunch more life, and really get them next turn. Okay, sure. I think we probably are winning that game, but it certainly helps if your opponent's going to is going to make life harder for themselves. So Force of Vigor is something we can play here because they play a lot of artifacts that are quite juicy to hit. We definitely need our Pithing Needles because our opponent is going to be all about trying to mess with our mana base. So they're going to have ports probably as well, and Field of Ruins, so they're going to have a bunch of stuff. So we're going to want the Ramunap Excavator. The Collector Ouphe can hit Ether Vials and stop those from working, which I don't hate here. It does impact our own expedition map, but I guess we'll get this afterwards. That's the trin. Are we kind of pre-boarded for this one? Like, the endurances are pretty good against some of their creatures, so they can buy us time. I honestly think we might just be resubmitting here. The only card that doesn't seem great is the Bojuka Bog. Maybe we could cut 1 Bojuka Bog for endurance. Is 26 lands enough? Probably. Yeah, we'll try that. Would I rather have Force of Vigor? The problem is you can't hit Cauldra with it. You can just hit Ether Vials, whereas an endurance can block the things that Ether Vial puts in and probably buys you more turns overall. So we'll see how it goes with this, unless they have some thing that I'm unaware of that they're going to play and really ruin us with. So this hand is a weird one. We have Pithing Needle on 1, but we don't really have any way of generating mana or advantages. We're just going to have to hope that what we do here is enough. They're keeping a 7-card hand. Don't particularly like this hand, to be honest with you. I think we can do better. That is not better. We can play Glimmerpost, Pithing Needle, and then play Expedition Map, then Vesuva. But then where are we going? I think we should mulligan again. Okay, this is the best one so far. I don't think we're on the Dark Depths plan necessarily, or are we? I think Dark Depths is very bad against D&T anyway, so we probably don't actually want that. Would we rather have a Vesuva or a Glimmerpost? Might be the Vesuva, because this can copy a Cloudpost potentially. Sure, we'll try like this. We've got our Once Upon a Time to hopefully find us something good on our turn. We're not going to cast it until it's our turn, because we want to see what our opponent plays and what we draw, and see if that impacts the choice of what we want to find off of the Once Upon a Time. When you've got a decision, you may as well make it with the most information possible before you make that decision. Mother of Runes. Yep. It's a good creature. Not amazing in this situation, to be fair, against us, but... Okay, let's cast this for free. What have you got, deck? A very tiny selection of cards. I guess we're going to take this Elvish Reclaimer. It's a pretty good one-drop. Pretty much the ideal one-drop, so... Good work Once Upon a Time. We can put 2 Cloudposts into play next turn, potentially. Swords to Plowshares. Sure. Down goes the Reclaimer. A Rishadan Port. You're going to get 1 damage in with the Mother of Runes? No. Very cowardly against the mono green deck there. And now we have a forest here. So I think we're probably in Expedition Map here. And then possibly a crop rotation for the Cloudpost, depending on what our opponent does. Because then we can crop rotation of Cloudpost, play the Vesuva, crack our Expedition Map. And then we're 1 turn away from Primeval Titan then. Wasteland and a Thalia. Okay, that's a little bit awkward for us. The clock isn't particularly strong though. Okay, this is a good draw for us. So, we'll play this. Name Wasteland. Now we have a choice here. We can play out our Vesuva as a forest. Or, between this Vesuva and a Cloudpost off of here, or off of the crop rotation, we can make a Primeval Titan. So I think we're supposed to keep this Vesuva in hand, because it's going to be better as a Cloudpost than it is as a forest. And if our opponent tries to Rishadan Port us in our upkeep, we crop rotate away anyway. So I think we're in an okay spot. If we can cast our Primeval Titan, I think we win the game. We just need to get to that point. Unless they have something weird like Aven Mind Sensor. If they're just going to be porting us and hitting us for a little bit, that's not really going to do enough damage to us. Okay, come on opponent. You going to Rishadan Port us? Yeah, I knew you would. We'll sacrifice this land. We will still need the 2nd green to cast Primeval Titan. That's going to be eminently doable when we have an Expedition Map sitting on the battlefield. And we've got 2 draw steps as well. 1 times Cloudpost. And we go to our draw step, an Emrakul. So this turn we are just playing this Cloudpost, or this Vesuva as a Cloudpost. If our opponent wants to Rishadan Port us next turn, we send that mana into an Expedition Map. A Timeless Dragon. Sure. That is a much bigger clock than what they've got going on now. So if that's what they're playing next turn, that's probably good for them. But that means we'll untap with the potential of Primeval Titaning. But if we don't draw a land, then we can't do that. So it's certainly an interesting play. I think this is the correct play for them, just to get the pressure on the board, because they're not going to win the longer this game goes on. We win the long game because we've got Emrakul on our deck. So this is 3. Next turn it's going to be 7. So we've still got 1 more turn after that. This is the turn where if we draw a green mana source, we are golden. I also can't plow in our turn because they're in Thalia. So I have to spend mana on their turn ploughing our Primeval Titan. And the 6 life it gives us will hopefully be something we can leverage into 1 extra turn to then cast Emrakul. Let's see what we draw. Interesting. So we can crop rotate this into a Glimmerpost. And then this will tap for 3, 6. So I have 7 mana then. So I use 2 mana to go and get a Yavimaya. And then the rest goes into Primeval Titan. That works, right? Let me just make sure my maths works here. So the Glimmerpost here, we tap this for 3 to go and get this to play the Yavimaya, which that and the Glimmerpost will tap for green, green, and then we'll still have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana left over. That, oh no, we need to counteract, we need to factor in the Thalia, don't we? So if we get this for Yavimaya, get this for Glimmerpost, sorry, then we get the Yavimaya, that's 1, 2, there. This taps for 3, this taps for 3, but we use 2 of it, so it's only 4. We have to use 1 of it for the Expedition Map. Oh, this is harder than I thought to puzzle my way out this one. So if we get the Glimmerpost now, there's one less mana in here. So that doesn't work for us, does it? Unless we tap both of these for 4, 5. We're still 1 mana shy here, aren't we? And if we crack this for... We need one more turn. Now, are we going to get another turn? I think we are going to get another turn here. But we need to make sure that we can tap all of our mana next turn. Effectively. This goes and gets Yavimaya now. And then we play out the Yavimaya. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's also not enough. Interesting. Glimmerpost. Because we'd have to tap the Cloudpost now to cast the crop rotation is the problem. I think we are on... So what if we go and get a Glimmerpost now first? Play the Glimmerpost. This will tap for 3 mana. And then 4, 5. So we still won't have enough. I think that's still fine though. So if we go get Yavimaya and play the Yavimaya... Is that better than getting the Glimmerpost here? We can go and get another Cloudpost. And that gives us 3, 6, 9... And go to 8. Or no, we tap 1 for 3. And then crop rotate away for another Glimmerpost. And then the other 2 are tapping for 4. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11 mana. So it's still not enough to Emrakul. I think we're supposed to get a Glimmerpost here. No, it should be a Cloudpost, right? We get a Cloudpost. We'll play a Cloudpost. And then next turn we cast Primeval Titan and go and get Glimmerposts. And then we cast Emrakul. So we can crop rotate for a Yavimaya. And then all of these are tapping for 3. So they can't tap us down off of our Primeval Titan. I think we wait to see what our opponent does with their Rishdan Port here. They could try and tap down our only green source. Yes, I thought they might do that. So these are tapping for 3 each this turn. But then we don't have the 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, what am I doing? Making this really hard for myself here, aren't I? We need to cast a Primeval Titan this turn. How do we do that? If we go get Yavimaya, that and the Cloudpost tap. But we have to tap the Cloudpost now, don't we? So if we go get Yavimaya, we go to our draw step. If we draw any land, we get to make Primeval Titan. I think that's worth it. We're going to lose this 2 mana here. Any land gives us Primeval Titan. They only have 7 on board here. Okay, so this gives us Primeval Titan a different way because he's tapped for 3 and this taps for 1. Oh, wait, no, because they've got a Thalia in play, haven't they? Change things around. Okay, I know what we do here. We go... We can't get Primeval Titan. We can get... just put all the mana in, whatever. But we can get Ramunap Excavator here to get us another land for next turn. Okay. Having to do a lot of maths here. And I'm not used to the permutations of maths with 8 posts, so apologies for going a bit slow here. So now they can't Rishdan Port us. Unless they get second port, they can't Rishdan Port us off of Cloudpost. Now, if they have Flicker Wisp, then they can just shred our entire board with Wastelands. Because they'll Flicker Wisp out our Pithing Needle and we'll lose the game. And that's not great for us. If we draw a Glimmerpost, we can just cast Emrakul next turn, though. Because it'll be 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. As long as they don't port us. Okay, a Jitte. This doesn't kill us this turn. Sure. Okay. So coming in for 6 this turn. So the first strike damage, get some counters. Not enough to kill our Ramunap Excavator, so we do get this forest out of our graveyard if we need it. What are we doing here? Have they got a way of making it lose first strike? That seems unlikely. Okay, so we finally get to cast Primeval Titan this turn. Emrakul the Promised End. How good is that here? I don't think it's good enough, right? Like, we get to attack with a Thalia, kill off these 2 things, but then if they get to remain any damage on the board, I don't think it's worth taking the risk, and we can just cast a Primeval Titan. So this is... Let's just see how much our Emrakul casts right now. 10. Okay, that's quite a lot. So we'll cast Primeval Titan. This. These 2. We might be able to cast both, to be fair. If we get 2 Glimmerposts, this one will tap for 5. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8 off of this. That's still not enough to cast Emrakul. So if we get 2 Glimmerposts here, that gains us 10 life. That puts us to 12. And this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 2 Glimmerposts should be fine here. I don't think we need to go into Glacial Chasm. This is still 10, isn't it? And this taps for 7. But if we play this, this will cost one more. If we want to do that, then we just play out our forest here. And we pass the turn. And the next time we cast Emrakul and win the game. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It would have been closer if they didn't use their Umazawa's Jitte counter, but I still don't think they'd be close enough to win. And the next time we cast Emrakul, take an extra turn, shred all their permanents, and kill them. I think we're okay. I don't know if there's any way they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they could have drawn Council's Judgment. Okay, this is... What are they going to name here? They voted for Primeval Titan. Okay, I'll vote for Primeval Titan as well then. They could have voted for Pithing Needle and tapped differently and wastanded us off of 2 sources, like 2 Cloudposts. That might have been good enough. And that's what I probably would... I guess well, then we attack with the Primeval Titan anyway, don't we? So, but we wouldn't have the mana right there. We will block here, just to save damage, just in case. We don't need this Ramunap Excavator. So they'll use the Jitte counter to make their guy bigger. Okay, they can do it that way as well. And then we cast Emrakul, the Promised End. Not the Promised End, the Aeons Torn. And then we cast Emrakul, the Promised End. Might as well. So this is 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's cast this guy. That should probably be game. And how much is tap for now? 6. Okay, we just go to our extra turn, I guess. Then we'll shred all their permanents. Expedition map. Okay, we can just take infinite turns instead. That's the easiest way of locking this game up, I think. Solitude is something they could have, but they would have to do it before we go to attacks, because otherwise they're just losing so much of their board. So take 15, and then we go and take another turn using our expedition map to get ourselves a Karakas. If they've got a Solitude here, they can use it, but we can still cast Emrakul, the Promised End here. Alright, so apologies, it took me a long time to puzzle out the maths on that one. I haven't played a lot of Cloudpost before, I've only played the deck twice before. And there was a lot of maths to go and I was a little bit slow. But we got there in the end. I think this matchup is probably very favoured for Cloudpost, as long as you can shut off their mana denial and they don't have like a really quick clock in the form of Cauldron on turn 3. I think you're generally going to be alright. We did actually race a turn 2 Cauldron anyway, so turn 3 Cauldron. Alright, let's go into round 2. Okay, we're on the play. We get to make turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer. That's usually a good spot to be in. We also get to Once Upon a Time. Do this first. Do I want a basic forest or do I want a Cavern of Souls? Interesting. I think we take the Cavern of Souls here. We can always crop rotate it away later. And then we play out a basic land here and play out our Elvish Reclaimer. The fact that we didn't play the Cavern might give our opponent a bit of a tell at what we're on. Flooded Strand. Okay, so this Cavern of Souls might be pretty useful later on. A Tundra. This is probably getting ploughed or prismatic ending. Yeah, sure. So we could just play... We could just try and get our... So we play this one out and we name Giant. It's a bit of a giveaway. I think it's the optimal play here. Let's see if we can Green Suns for 1 to get ourselves another Elvish Reclaimer. Next time we can play out Bojuka Bog, Expedition Map, and then crop rotate away the Bojuka Bog. Okay, we're looking like some sort of bant list here. Ponder. There's a lot of variants of this sort of setup so far that we've seen. They're just generically good blue and white spells with a Savannah also in play. So it could be something like Hot Bant, it could be regular Bant. We don't really know yet. Swords to Plowshare, sure. Okay, so play this out. If our opponent's got a Murktide or Snapcaster Mage, this is nice for us. And we'll play out this Expedition Map. Our opponent doesn't give me the impression that they're playing Daisies, but we'll see soon. If they still don't drop a threat this turn, then it's unlikely they're playing Daisies. Let's see what they drop. Okay, so a solid Bant mana base is what we're seeing here. Teferi, Time Raveler. Okay, I think we want to crop rotate in response. This is a good spot for them to have a Daze, but decks with Teferi don't normally play Daze. They could Force of Will this. And they did, sure. Temporal Mastery. Okay. They're on something a little bit spicy over there. Sure, there goes our Expedition Map. That's fine. Play Expedition Map. Play Elvish Reclaimer. Play Eye of Ugin. Our opponent could have Wastelands in their deck. Some of these Bant decks get quite greedy. I think Hot Bant even runs 2. So, what are we doing here? A Sylvan Library, sure. I think we're going to go get Yavimaya here. And play out the Yavimaya. So now we can use our Elvish Reclaimer in our opponent's turn to go and get a Cloudpost. Probably sacrificing our forest. And then we're just looking to draw into a Primeval Titan at that point. more or less. Yep, activating their Teferi. Casting a Brainstorm. So they don't have a land in hand is what that tells me. They did keep both of their cards with their Sylvan Library in case you were wondering. Their last shot on this matchup, not so important. I think it's the amount of control they can have, especially in these early turns. I say early, it's turn 5 now, I guess. Snowlands, so I wouldn't be surprised to see our opponent running something like a Ice Fang or something in their deck. That's certainly a reasonable thing to expect. So then we can tap this because this taps for green now. And we'll sacrifice this for a Cloudpost. Okay. So we could try and kill the Teferi right now if we want to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can sacrifice a Glimmerpost here, more or less for free, to make our guy big enough to kill the Teferi. Alternatively, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So next turn, if we do nothing, we can Eye of Ugin. Is it more important for me to try and get this Teferi off the board? I want to get this Teferi off the board. If this gets countered, we can still Primal Titan next turn if we draw one. Okay, we got Force of Will. Sure. But the main reason we did this was to kill their Teferi. Okay, so only kept one card this time. If we draw a Primal Titan, it's uncounterable. Subtlety can mess with it if they're playing Subtlety. Okay, so there's the plow on that, but we already got the Teferi out of the way. Our opponent isn't producing a threat against us just yet, so that's good. Considering we have the Cavern of Souls on Giant, it makes sense they're using their Force of Wills on whatever they can. The fact we haven't seen any red sources is good for us because it means they're unlikely to have Mince Boo, which is something that can just clock us really quickly and effectively. A Glimmerpost. Do I play this Glimmerpost out now, or do I play... I could Greenstone Zenith now for Ramunap Excavator, or I could try and get the Uro out of their graveyard. Blue, blue, green, green. They've got loads of cards here. I think we're probably looking at getting the Uro out of their graveyard here. Green. 1, 2, 3. Dress down. Interesting. Okay, this changes what we go and get here, I think. Okay, they're brainstorming. Force of Negation. Pitching an Uro. Okay, so they burned a lot of resources to stop that. Just need to draw one of our Primeval Titans at some point soon. These dress downs are going to be pretty useful against us, I would imagine. They don't stop the cast triggers of things, but they can make our Primeval Titan not win us the game when we cast it. So that's something to know about. Like, we're not going to not cast a Primeval Titan if we find it, though. They have a Primeval Titan. Fascinating. Okay, so they're a Field of the Dead deck, is what this tells me. So they're presumably going to get Field of the Dead here. Just 2 Wastelands. Okay, sure. A Thespian stage. I guess we play this out. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. It's not quite enough. And we're just going to get Wastelanded out of the game here, aren't we? I think we can concede here. Alright. So our opponent's going to have a load of islands. I would like to have some Carpet Flowers. These Endurances against the Uros are probably going to be pretty reasonable. Certainly better than a Collector Ouphe. We did see Wastelands out of our opponents, so the Pithing Needle is still good here. We also saw Planeswalkers that we wouldn't mind messing around with. How useful do I think Ramunap Excavator is going to be here? I think it's probably worth keeping in our deck as an option. The crop rotations are probably the sketchiest thing here because we can play the game slower because of our opponent being a blue deck, and I don't really want to be sacrificing lands if I can avoid it. And then we've got these 3 Endurances. So we've currently got 1 Endurance in there. Do want to try and make room for another Endurance. How would we do that? We kind of need to make sure that we have top-end stuff that does things. I don't think we want to cut any of these. The Glacial Chasm is something we might want to think about cutting here. If we cut the Glacial Chasm, it can expose us to like a big Field of the Dead going wide against us. But I don't really think that our game is about that. We could trim 1 Once Upon a Time for an Endurance if we want the extra one in. So currently we've got 2 Endurance. If we want to get the 3rd one, I quite like the Endurances just as like a mid-range thing that we can do and pressure our opponent with. I think Dark Depths is going to be a liability actually in this matchup. I don't think we're going to be making 2020s against the Teferi Prismatic Ending Swords to Plowshares deck. I think that's the cut there. And we can keep these little threats in to give us our opponents something to do while we make land drops. It's Glacial Chasm that we didn't wanted. We can Boseiju into Reclaimer. But this Glacial Chasm is a real bad card for us here. I think we should mulligan. It's something we want in our deck, but something we don't want in our hand. What does this hand do? Nothing. We need more mana. Okay, this is a good hand. We'll keep this. I don't think we need the Yavimaya here, and we probably don't need 2 endurances. So we'll say done here. Now, we've seen wastelands out of our opponent. That is something that can mess with our hand for sure. Okay, no wasteland on turn 1. That's something. The reason we kept the forest instead of the Yavimaya is because of the wastelands we saw from our opponent, in case you were curious. We don't want to get shot off of green by 1 wasteland early on in the game. See if we can get ourselves a little elf. We can get an elf. Okay, they probably have a removal spell for this. And there it is. Pithing Needle. I would very much like to cast Pithing Needle here. Let's play this out, I think. Are we supposed to name Wasteland or are we supposed to name Teferi? Is the question here. I think it's Wasteland for now. And if they bounce it, we reassess the situation. Would I like to play a Green Sun Zenith for an elf right now? Is that something that's worth my time? 1, 2, 3, 4. Still need 3 more mana. If we go and get an elf, we can then use that elf to go and get a Yavimaya instead of our forest, which then lets us get the endurance. Or we can hold the Green Suns because our opponent isn't doing a lot and try and leverage it into a Primeval Titan. I think we pass for now. If I'd have known I was drawing a Pithing Needle, I probably would have kept the Yavimaya so we could cast our endurance now. Alas. An end of turn brainstorm like this I don't particularly like. It usually means that they're looking to cast a 3-drop on their turn if they're doing it, I would imagine. So this looks like a Teferi turn. Nope, just a Sylvan Library. Okay. We drew a land, but it's a bad land. Just going to get off. I don't think we can play out this Glacial Chasm because it will force us to sack something. We can play it out and then sacrifice it to the Elvish Reclaimer, but we still have the, when it enters the battlefield, sacrifice a land clause on it. So we don't really get to do anything with it unless we just want to use it to gain a bit of life or gain a temporary boost of mana, potentially. But that only works if you have multiple Cloudposts out. They kept 2 cards from there. Okay, so they're just going into the Life from Alone plan to try and find a wasteland, which seems like a very good idea. Dress down, sure. So we don't get to use our Elvish Reclaimer until our opponent's turn here. And endurance that we can't really do anything about. Yikes. We can pitch cast an endurance if we don't want our opponent to make an Uro this turn. I don't know if we beat an Uro. I think we have to pitch cast this. Unfortunately, we don't get the Life from Alone here. But if they cast an Uro this turn, I don't know we come back from that because they've got more lands than us. And yeah. I don't think we wanted this Glacial Chasm on our deck, so there's a bit of useful sideboard in front. Yeah, they're going to wasteland our... Well, they can't wasteland us when we've got a Reclaimer up. And they can't wasteland because we have a Pithing Needle, actually. So they could Teferi here. I think we... What are we sacrificing here? Tap this for the mana, and then we have to sacrifice one of our lands. Is it the Glimmerpost? Probably is the Glimmerpost. Just can turn it into a Cloudpost, which is better. If they have a Teferi in hand, I think they should have sequenced this differently. By playing the Teferi out, bouncing the Pithing Needle, playing the Wasteland, and then doing that sort of jazz. So I think we just want to get a Vesuva here, because the Vesuva are worse if we lose Cloudposts. So getting it as a Cloudpost now is slightly better for us. Okay, they're just playing an Uro out. Not ideal for us, but it's going to be pretty good with their Sylvan Library over there. It basically represents 2 cards. We need to draw something this turn. We've been bricking a little bit. Force of Vigor on the Pithing Needle. Sure. Okay, so we're going to get wastelanded as well. Yep. I think this game is over. Surge of Extract on the Cloudpost. I've been done here. Sure, this matchup felt pretty horrible. This Glacial Chasm in our hand wasn't great, but even if we didn't have that, I'm not really sure that we overcome the Sylvan Library drawing additional 2 cards a turn alongside the Uro there. Alright, the control Wasteland deck, bit awkward. I think I would have played the first game differently if I knew that they were like a Wasteland Primeval Titan deck, but I just assumed they were going to be like a relatively slow control deck with Uros, and we could eventually grind through it. Alright, let's go on to round 3. I like this hand. We have Wasteland Protection, we have Crop Rotations to go and get the things we need, we have a Primeval Titan to go up the curve with, we have a Once Upon a Time to try and find the right bits and pieces. So the Scalding Tarn, representing blue mana, is a little bit awkward for us, because it means these Crop Rotations are going to be less good. Right, let's cast this first. Now they could daze this if they wanted to. Let's see what we have here. Glacial Chasm we don't want. An Elvish Reclaimer is pretty good though. I'll take the Reclaimer. Because we've got this basic forest, we can play out Reclaimer. And then next turn we can Pithing Needle Expedition map, or whatever we want. They're cracking their Scalding Tarn. Okay, so this could be like the Grixis Tempo deck, maybe. Could be Doomsday. Some of the Doomsday builds have these in these days. Not quite sure what our opponent is on, so we'll have to play as carefully as we can. Do I think our opponent is on Wastelands? I don't think so. I think this, and I think we just want to hold up our Reclaimer as a thing we can do. Hopefully our opponent is like a bit of a slow deck. Okay, this could be Espervile then. Teferi, Time Reveler, sure. Is this just going to bounce our Elvish Reclaimer? No, it is not. Okay. Sacrifice this land. Go and get your friend of mine, Cloudpost. Interesting choices here. I think we play out the Yavimaya here. And then we play out a Pithing Needle first. I think they'll fight over this so they can keep their Teferi. They did not. Okay. I'm going to try for a crop rotation here. Okay, that resolved. So if we get a Glimmerpost, we get to play the Expedition map, hold up. Actually, if we get a Cloudpost here, then our Cloudpost taps for 2. We still need another one. No, I think we get a Glimmerpost here, so that we can play our Expedition map. So we can crack our Expedition map if we want to, or we can Elvish Reclaimer if our opponent has something we need to worry about. We can't crop rotate because of the Teferi. Feels like our opponent doesn't have a counterspell because they didn't counterspell our crop rotation, which feels like a pretty good one to counterspell a lot of the time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Preordain. Okay, this definitely feels like Doomsday now. The Preordain is usually a giveaway. You don't see that in the slowery control decks. A Duress. So we're going to lose our crop rotation here. So this only costs 10. So this is 1, 2. So if we go get a Cloudpost here, this is 3, 6, 7. So that's not really enough. If we get another Cloudpost, so this will be time for 2, 3, 4. I think we're supposed to get the Cloudpost here off the Glimmerpost. Feels a bit awkward that we did it the ways we actually did that, to be honest. Let's get another Cloudpost. Because we obviously already shooted for that Glimmerpost. So that doesn't feel great. Green Sun Zenith. So this is 2, 4, 5. So we can crack this. We can get a Cavern of Souls here. Play this out. Naming Giant, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could go and get something like an Endurance here. So that seems amazing. Going to get another Reclaimer. I think we just passed a turn here. Is it worth us green something this turn? No, I think we just pass a turn here and hold up the Reclaimer. So this is Hardcast Forces with our opponents representing unless they tap any mana here. Okay. Dark Ritual. So our opponent's about to cast Doomsday on us. Okay. So if we get another turn, we want to cast Emrakul the Promised End. Okay. Are they going this turn? Okay, I think we have to cast Emrakul the Promised End here. I don't think Primeval Titan will do enough. So I think we are... Our opponent's got no cards in hand here. So I think we sacrifice the Cavern. And we go and get ourselves another Cloudpost. The only problem here is they know what the top card of their library is. And they've obviously stacked it knowing that we have an Emrakul the Promised End in hand. Alright. What are we going to find? So we could cast an Endurance here, which will shuffle in this Doomsday. 3, 6, 9, 10. So we can cast... So how much does this cost? This does cost 10. So we can cast Emrakul the Promised End. But our opponent's bottom card is going to be the Thassa's Oracle, so we won't be able to drain them all the way to it. I think we need to... if we turn this... So we float green off of this. And then we... So this will cost us 2 to get rid of this. But then it will buy us 2 more mana that way. Is that right? Alternatively, if we go 1, 2... If we get Ramunap, so 1... So this tap, so these 2 gets us Ramunap Excavator, which then gets us Glimmerpost. So then this taps for 4, 8, 9 mana, which isn't enough to do anything particularly interesting. Although, if we then turn one of our other lands into a post, if we turn this into a post, then we'll have enough to Emrakul Promised End as well. I think we should be casting the Green Sun Zenith this turn though. So this gets us The Endurance, I think, is the thing we need. We shuffle in their Doomsday. So they have 6 cards now. And then this, what are we trying to cast next turn? This taps for 3, 4 mana here. So we can play out a Reclaimer. That's pretty free to do, I think, here. And then this can tap for our Reclaimer in our opponent's turn. So we kind of need them to hit into the... Actually, it doesn't... Oh, no, they got the Teferi here. Okay, so they got Preordain. So this should mean they can just win whatever we did, really, right? Because they put the Doomsday on the bottom, go and get the Thassa's Oracle here and just cast it. Yeah, sure, that'll do. Like, if we cast the Emrakul with Promise End, we know that they can win the game still, because they stacked their library knowing it was there. Okay, so how do we beat this deck? Endurances mess with their pile a little bit. Carpet of Flowers can give us some extra mana. Collector Ouphe maybe has text. I don't think we need Pithing Needles here. They can stop Cyclers, but I don't know if that's realistic as an option of what we need to do. I think we just need to go as quickly as possible, to be honest. Maybe with like buying ourselves 1 turn with an Endurance, which means we probably need to keep a crop rotation. Our opponent's a blue deck, so I don't really want to have loads of crop rotation. This, where is it? This Glacial Chasm can get out. That's a bad card. So I think we probably have to trim down on crop rotations here, just because they're a blue deck. Or do we just have to hope that we can get through the crop rotations? Get through with crop rotations if we fire them off enough. No. Can't imagine this matchup is great. Mindbreak Trap doesn't necessarily do anything against our opponent either. An early 2020 is definitely an option of things we can do here. This hand doesn't really do very much. I think we should mulligan this one. This hand is keepable. We get to sling back one of our cards. Is it... It's probably an Endurance here. Okay, so we play out the Reclaimer. Next turn we play out a Cloudpost and a Reclaimer, perhaps. Depends if we need the green card to pitch. Our opponent did keep 7, so we're not massively happy about that. The Dark Depths. Okay, does that change anything? Maybe it does. I don't think we're going to be activating multiple Elvish Reclaimers, so I'm going to keep it as a green card. I think our plan might now be to Dark Depths Thespian stage. I think that's the quickest route to victory that we have in front of us right now. I don't think that's necessarily going to be quick enough, unfortunately. We should have attacked for 1, actually. That was a mistake. Cavern of Souls. Presumably on Wizard or Merfolk. Wizard. Sure. We missed 1 point of damage. Okay, so if we play out of Vesuva, copying the Cloudpost, then end of turn we turn this into a Thespian stage. And we untap, play the Dark Depths. Might even just get rid of the Boseiju here. So I don't have black unless I got a Dark Ritual, which it looks like they're about to cast. A Duress. This doesn't impact our hand right now. It does show that what our game plan is going to be involves Dark Depths here. I think we probably do get rid of our green source. As weird as that sounds. What shenanigans is this? A Dark Ritual. Is this an opposition agent? Sure. Okay. We're getting beaten up pretty hard by this deck. Not very happy about that one. Expedition map. Great. That's not really a thing that we're in the position to cast right now. Let's play out this Cloudpost, I guess. Is there any point? We might as well play out our Expedition map. No need to crack it, though, because they have an opposition agent. Fun times. So if we play the Dark Depths, we can move 3 we count as a turn because of all these... okay, they got the Karakas out of our deck so that we can't Marit Lage them anyway. Teferi Time Reveler. Yep. That's a guy. This opposition agent can swing in pretty freely, I think. No. Cowardice. I see. A Primeval Titan. So when we sacrificed this, we were working on the presumption that we could then Elvish Reclaimer for a Yavimaya if we drew something like this. That is not what has happened, unfortunately. We do get to remove counters pretty quick off the Dark Depths, though. They do have a Karakas, though. But if we get it to 1 counter, then we can just wait, and they can never tap down the Karakas for mana. Sure. Doing it the old-fashioned way. Won't take that long, but our opponent can cast Doomsday in our turn because of Teferi. Okay, another completely dead card. Sure. Yavimaya would be a pretty good draw. Mainly because we cast Endurance. Casting Primeval Titan, not great into the face of Opposition Agent. Although it says you may search your library, actually, so we can just play as a 6/6, actually. So that's still fine. We're going to need a way of winning the game at some point, and a 6-mana 6/6 with Trample is probably the best we're getting. Okay, Lotus Pearl. Again, because it's a Teferi, they don't actually need to cast the Doomsday now, if they have it, unless it wins them the game right there and then. So this is the thing with the Esper Doomsday list. It can kind of just throw a win at you that you weren't expecting from pretty much nowhere. Because they can just end of turn Doomsday you, and all of a sudden all your calculations are done because they get to untap with their mana and just go. It does tend to be a bit slower than the blue-black build, but it has a little bit of protection and stuff like that. Okay, so they're bouncing Elvish Reclaimer. Surprised it took them that long to think of doing that, because we obviously don't have green sources right now. Right, here we go. Down to 5 counters already. 4 counters already even. Won't be long. Not that we can do anything with it. 3, 6, 9. We're not a million miles from Emrakul. If we draw a Glimmerpost, that's 4, 8, 12, 13. If we draw a Cloudpost, we definitely get there. Yavimaya, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. The Yavimaya helps us out in other ways, because it lets us actually cast things. Alright, our opponent's just over there making land drops. And then slowly beating us down for 3. They plus their Teferi, they're going to end step. So now we're going to remove all but 1 counter of our Dark Depths. And now, if at any point they tap down their Karakas, then we make a 20/20. If we draw a Pithing Needle, we can Pithing Needle the Karakas and make a 20/20. So we've got some draws that aren't terrible for us. Now, I've certainly got a lot of draws that are terrible for us. Cloudpost is definitely not one of them, though. I will take that Cloudpost, please. So, if we untap, we get to cast Emrakul. 4, 8, 12, 16. Yeah. So, we need to not die this turn. Our opponent is casting something at our end step by the looks of it, which means we'll probably get this turn. Okay, it's a Brainstorm. That's a little better for us, potentially. We need our opponent to not do the thing. They could have Subtlety in their deck, which can mess with the Emrakul, because Subtlety doesn't count spells. It just puts them on top of libraries, I believe. We still get the extra turn, though, so we just kind of do the same thing the following turn. Okay, the way they use that Lotus Petal to ponder makes me think that they're going to Doomsday this turn. They have a Teferi that they can use as a draw. Okay. Okay. This is something. Yep, you can beat us down for a little bit. A Boseiju. Interesting. Big Emrakul hits the stack. You can't counter it, and I take an extra turn. I will play my Boseiju out, I think. If they want to bounce it with the Karakas, be my guest, because we just replay it and keep taking turns. Because they Karakas it now, we replay it, then their Karakas is tapped. So, sure. If they have a Thoughtseize now, that's very good. This does not search the library, it just looks at the top cards. So, Opposition Agent doesn't get a mess with us here. I think we finally managed to find a spot that isn't terrible. This will put our opponent to 1. If they sacrifice the Opposition Agent. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so we've got a lot of mana, obviously. So, let's tap this. Let's go get Eye of Ugin. Let's play Eye of Ugin. And so this is 4, 8, 12, 13. So we'll have 6 mana left over. 5, 4, 3. So we won't have enough to cast Emrakul yet. What if we turn this into... Yes, if we crop rotate our Boseiju away into a Cloudpost or a Glimmerpost, that should be enough. Okay, yeah, so what we're going to do is going to Eye of Ugin, cast Emrakul the Promised End to make sure our opponent doesn't do anything, or we can cast Ulamog and get rid of the last permanent. Okay, so do we want to have any changes here? I don't particularly like getting hit by the that lad that caused us a little bit of trouble, the Opposition Agent. I think I'm just going to take out the crop rotations for a couple of Pithing Needles onto Teferi and stuff. Like, getting your crop rotation hit with a counter spell is bad. Getting your crop rotation hit by a... we can keep this, we've got Reclaimer and loads of land. Getting your crop rotation hit by a Opposition Agent is just rude, to be honest. I put them all to 6. A Ponder. Okay, so it's not the turn 1 Doomsday unless they go Petal Dark Ritual. Which means they're unlikely to kill us on turn 1. Let's try Carpet. Okay, that was just a full-on F5 there. So we'll use this Carpet, yes. Green. F6, sorry. So we'll play our guy out. So we can start generating a lot of mana as early as next turn. Baleful Strix, sure. Misty Rainforest. Yes. Get some green mana, please. Play this out. We will sacrifice our forest. We've got another forest in hand if we need it, and we've got the Carpet Flowers. We might as well do this while our opponent doesn't have the possibility of the Opposition Agent. Okay, so we're going to have 4, 5 mana next turn, plus whatever we do here. So we can have 3, 6, 7 mana next turn. If our opponent plays some more islands, we get more mana. So, okay, these little guys are not going to be doing the most amount of work. This is indestructible, so we don't have to worry about Death Touch. We're just going to hit their lands if we get the opportunity. Because they have 2 of them, I think we're actually just better off racing to Ulamog rather than anything else here. Add green from Carpet. So this is 3, 6, 9 if I play this. Is that worth doing here? We kind of want to get a tap land out of our hand here. So I think we play... We can play out the Dark Depths, actually. But we kind of don't want to play into a potential opposition agent here. I think we just actually pass a turn. If they tap out everything, then we can do it. But we've still got the Ulamog next turn. And we can use that without relying on our Misty Rainforest because we can get the 1 from this. So I think this is the best way to play around opposition agent. A Cavern of Souls. That's something they don't really want to draw. It's just something they want in their piles. So that's probably a good sign for us. It doesn't tap for the mana they need. Okay. This could be a better problem. Okay. Just preordain. Interesting why they're using their petal for that. So this feels like they're trying to bait us into activating our bits and pieces, which we don't really want to do. We just want to blow up all their lands. Good old-fashioned land destruction. That's all we want. Okay. Carpet Flowers. Yes. I like green mana, please. So, what lands do we actually want to play here? Play out the Eye of Ugin. Does that make a difference? We can play out the Karakas, so we can bounce our guy if they have a removal spell. I would like you to lose your permanents, please. This is probably opposition agent. Yeah, so we played around opposition agent quite nicely here. Force of Will. Sure. That's fine. Next turn. We lose the one we were getting off of Carpet of Flowers. But we have Eye of Ugin, so... We can 2-turn an Emrakul here. And our opponent is just on relatively mediocre beats here. Put this out. So this is 3, 6, 7 goes into the Eye of Ugin this turn. We have 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 next turn, which isn't actually enough to do what we need to. But we can see what I can... that would be enough to get to cast the other Emrakul. So we can cast Emrakul the Promised End and see what our opponent's working with. Possibly use their tools on themselves. I think we're in a okay spot. We need to play a little bit quicker because of time on the round here. Then we just take this. Actually, we can't Eye of Ugin because of the opposition agent, actually. That's a very bad play for us right there. Nearly walked into it because I'm making mistakes here. So what we need to do now, what we should have done last time was play the Dark Depths, actually. Definitely should have played the Dark Depths. So, does it matter which way around we do this? No. We play out the Thespian stage first, actually, because this can copy a Cloudpost and still be a Thespian stage, so we can use our Dark Depths if we need to. I think this turn we're blocking the opposition agent. They probably don't even want to play an island to give us mana here. So this would like to be a copy of this, please. Primeval Titan. We don't actually have the green mana for the Primeval Titan, but we get to Dark Depths this turn. So that can block the opposition agent or the Baleful Strix. Sure. So we're not taking damage anymore. And we force a chump block next turn. Be a pretty reasonable time for Yavimaya. Our opponent might be looking at some sort of surgical here. Okay, that's a good draw for us. So this gives us more mana, but more importantly, more life right now. So this is going to eat the Strix this turn. Oh, a long old game this one. So our opponent needs to assemble a flying blocker. If they have a bounce spell, that would be pretty annoying. I think we'd probably lose if they have a bounce spell. If we draw Yavimaya, though, a Ponder, sure. If we draw Yavimaya, we can cast a Primal Titan just as a 6/6 Trampler. Lotus Petal. Okay. It's going to be like another Ponder or something. If they have Submerges, they can't cast them because we haven't got any forests. A Brainstorm. So they're definitely digging for something to keep them alive. Probably have to be Petal, Petal to Fairy. Petal. Preordain, sure. They can't Petal, Petal to Fairy now because the 3 petals are gone. I think our opponent might be trying to time us out here by taking some operations, but I don't think that's going to work. Can I get my 20 damage in? Okay, we did. All right. So this was a long game and was a bit weird, but what I will say is our opponent went into a sideboard duke with these opposition agents and stuff that was really good in game 2, but in game 3 when I was playing around it, it just gave us all the time in the world to assemble what we were doing. So I think maybe they should have just tried to turbo for game 3. I'm not sure Baleful Strixes are particularly great. Like, they do cantrip, but I'm not sure they're necessarily where you want to be here. They do block Emrakul for a turn, but I think if they've boarded out anything that lets them go faster, that's definitely not something they should have done. Alright, let's go on to the 4th round. We're 2-1. Okay, we're on the play here. We don't have Cloudposts. We're very slow to do anything. We should mulligan. We have a Cloudpost, and we can do some stuff with it. I think we keep this one. We're looking at throwing something back. It's probably the Bojuka Bog, I think. We have a choice of if we play out the Reclaimer or we just play out the Cloudpost. I think we should just play out the Cloudpost. If we draw a Glimmerpost, we can play and crack Expedition map. Our opponent can wasteland us here, and it won't be very nice. But we can fall back on casting the Elvish Reclaimer. If we don't have to worry about wastelands, I'd rather keep the Cavern of Souls back for the Primeval Titan later on. And just getting the Cloudpost up and rolling is where you want to be for the most part. Polluted Delta. Okay. A Glimmerpost. Okay. So we'll play this Glimmerpost out. This way we can get our maximum mana efficiency by playing out our Expedition map and cracking it at the same turn. Because our opponent could have Opposition Agent, I don't really want to crack it until they've spent their mana. If they crack a fetch, then I'll Expedition map. They're not going to crack a fetch now anyway, but they might in their turn. Let's see what they're getting, I think. I don't think I need to play around main deck Opposition Agent. I think I'd rather have the information of what our opponent is doing with their turn. Snow-covered island. So this could be... It's unlikely to be Doomsday, because you would almost always fetch an Underground Sea in that situation. Fetching the basic island against a deck that clearly isn't going to be wastelanding you is very interesting to me. It makes me think our opponent could be on mono blue of some description. The mono blue decks that exist that people might play at the moment would be that weird mono blue Delver deck that is very fringe, or High Tide, Solidarity, something along those lines. So I think Solidarity is probably what I'm more worried about, because they can just clock us a lot quicker. It could just be a control deck that wants to get basic snow lands for the purposes of Ice Fang. Okay, so they're casting another spell, I think, here. So are you deploying a Delver, or are you deploying... Okay, an Underground Sea and a Ponder. Weird that this first one wasn't an Underground Sea to me. So it doesn't look like an Ice Fang deck. Let me just get another Cloudpost, I think. And a Forest. So this can tap for 3, 4, 5 if I play this. I play this out next turn, I can get a Primeval Titan into play. So we'll play out this Cloudpost. And pass. So next turn we have 7 mana. So we can play a Green Sun Zenith around a Daze. Now our opponent might have a counter spell, or they could have a discard spell to rip out of our hand this turn. Scalding Tarn from our opponent, and no play. Interesting. Another Cloudpost. Like, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to jam here. This is 6, 7. I'm not expecting this to resolve. Could just be a hard cast Force of Negation at this point. Or they might be casting some spells to fish around. Could be good old fashioned counter spell. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Who's playing Opposition Agent main deck here? So do they get to put it... exile each card they find. Okay, so they get to exile a Primeval Titan from our deck. Oh, why is everyone playing Opposition Agents today? It's alright, it's alright. That's kind of less scary than... I think it could be like a Grixis Doomsday list, maybe with Opposition Agents. Like, if we draw a Primeval Titan, it's still a trample guy because of a Cavern of Souls. 3, 6, no, 4, 8, 12, 13, 14. So we've got an Emrakul if we can draw one. And we're playing the build with 3 Eldrazi, not 2. So, oh dear, oh dear. If we're going to keep drawing Cloudposts, we want to save this one in case we need it for Glimmerpost later. And we may as well play out this guy. He can chump block for a turn if we need to later on. We're certainly not activating his ability, that's for sure. Our opponent might counterspell this or kill it, which is a mistake in my opinion when you've got the Opposition Agent in play. But may as well give our opponent the opportunity to make an error. Opponent's cracking their Polluted Delta at my end step for a Badlands. Okay, so they're firmly in Grixis. This could be like Grixis control-y type thing with Opposition Agent. We haven't really seen anything apart from cantrips though. A Brazen Borrower. That is a creature for sure. Okay, so if we play Cloudpost and then Vesuva the turn after, copying Glimmerpost, I think that's the best way of buffing our life total until we can draw something relevant. We have 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have uncounterable of any Eldrazi we want if we draw it. And we have a buffer guy in case they're running Sudden Edict as a removal spell. Hidetsugu consumes all. So we're going to lose our Elvish Reclaimer. But I think the most important part of this for our opponent is the fact that this is going to be a threat in a couple of turns' time. Okay, our opponent looks like they're on the Grixis control front. I don't believe Grixis control runs Wastelands. I could be mistaken on that, but we shall see. An Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, so we'll play another Cloudpost. We'll play another Elvish Reclaimer. Welcome, chump blocker. So next turn we gain 5 life. 6 life off of our Vesuva. So that's basically a whole turn cycle we gain. But this Hidetsugu Consumes-All is going to get big pretty quick once it flips. Lightning bolting our face. Sure. Bit rude. I think they're casting a Snapcaster Bolt in response. Sure. Okay. Did not know Grixis Control ran the old opposition agents. So they're probably bolting our face again. Doesn't really matter either way. It's 3 damage, isn't it? Okay. So this, when it flips, does not have haste. So, wait, hold on. Yeah, it returns to the battlefield, so it won't have haste. So it won't be able to attack next turn. But we're going to have to find something in the very near future. We can chump block here, or we can trade. Okay, we don't get to trade. So we take 6 this turn and go to 1. But then we gain 6. But we're dead next turn to Snapcaster Mage. So this would be a great turn to draw Emrakul. Ulamog might not even be good enough here. Probably is, but... Expedition map. Very funny. So play this out, and then we get hit. So this gives us 6 life, puts up to 7, then we just die. Okay, let's try and win from the sideboard. So I like Endurances as just like a middling thing to do. I like Carpet Flowers as a way of getting more mana out. These things seem fine. Collector Ouphe seems pretty blank. I don't think our opponent is a Wasteland deck. I'm pretty sure Grixis Control is. Maybe I should just check that. The internet tells me they're not a Wasteland deck. So we're bringing in these Pithing Needles. Probably brought out a couple of crop rotations because they're pretty bad in the face of counter spells and opposition agent. Do we want Force of Vigor just as an answer for Hidetsugu Consumes-All? Probably not. I think these decks do run Blood Moon, potentially. So maybe we want these. If that's the case, brought out a couple of crop rotations and maybe a couple of maps. Right, let's try that. Yeah, I like Carpet Flowers a lot in this matchup, so I'll keep this. But yeah, Once Upon a Time to like fix our hand a little bit too. Let's cast this without paying its mana cost. What did we find? An Endurance, an Emrakul, Glacial Chasm, which we should have brought it out. I think I would like the Endurance here. And then we will play out this, and we'll play out a Carpet. Should play it in the second main phase, so I have less things to click through. Okay. We have the Boseiju, which can answer a Blood Moon if necessary. I'd like to draw a different land this turn. Oh, beautiful. So we'll say no to this one. Play this one out. Pass the turn. So next time we can play out a Boseiju and start endurancing and try and mess with our opponent a little bit and putting some pressure on. Though we'd ideally like to snag some things from their graveyard potentially, but we'll see. We can always just Vesuva this little thing here. We'll say no to this one. Play this one out. And we'll copy our Cloudpost, unsurprisingly. Right, we'll pass a turn. We'll hold up Boseiju if we need to. If they get an island, we can use our Carpet Flowers, but probably not incentivized to actually get any islands right now. So because of Opposition Agent, we don't really want to be playing these Green Sun Zeniths just yet. So we can cast the Primeval Titan here if we want to, but I think we're just going to cast the Endurance in our opponent's turn. They know we have an Endurance though, so it's not going to be a surprise for them. This feels like a Opposition Agent. There we go. Sure. We also have Force of Vigor in case they have a Blood Moon, but they didn't fetch a basic island, so I suspect they don't have a Blood Moon in hand at least. Okay, they had a basic island, so they might have a Blood Moon here. Hidetsugu Consumes-All. That's fine by me. We can blow that up if we need to. Oh, it hits our carpet, doesn't it? Of course it does. It's a little bit annoying for us. Green, green, and 1. Shuffle these lands into your deck. I don't really want you to draw lands. I don't really want you to draw non-lands, so you can have lands. Snuff out, sure. What was our plan this turn? We've drawn another Carpet of Flowers, which is nice. Let's play another Carpet out. We might just Force of Vigor in our opponent's turn pitching. We could hard cast the Force of Vigor now, but I think on the off chance that our opponent has something, we don't really care about graveyards being exiled here. I guess it makes our Emrakul slightly harder to cast, but I don't think that's too much of an issue right now. I'd rather hold some mana up and try and represent something. A Baleful Strix. Okay, so this is a good reason why we might want to have it. So this is just another thing that we can hit for free with our Force of Vigor. A Brainstorm, sure. So we definitely want to hit the Hidetsugu Consumes All because it's just a really potent threat. I think we're probably playing Primeval Titan, but choosing not to search. It does get killed by black removal. And it obviously has to resolve as well. But we have plenty of mana next turn because of this carpet. Scalding Tarn. Let's add a load of green mana here. So we will not be searching our library. And we have 4 mana available to do this. So the flip side of this is an enchantment creature. Just a Brazen Borrower on that guy. Let's blow up their 2 things. So they can bounce our Primal Titan, but we can cast it next turn. Again, we're still not doing anything with it because we can't get rid of this Opposition Agent. Some builds of the Cloudpost deck tend to run some Walking Ballistas for situations a bit like this, where you have a guy that is stopping you from doing the thing that your deck wants to do. Expressive Iteration. Sure, it's a good card. Snapcaster Mages into the Exile Zone. So this could be a free Brainstorm. It does power up our Carpet, which is a potential problem for our opponent. If we can, so we have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so they're going to rebuy the Expressive Iteration with Mystic Sanctuary. We have 11 mana, so if we draw an Ulamog, then we're having a great time. But our opponent's got quite a lot of resources over there. Alright. We're going to take a little bash for 3 here, but we got a few turns of damage we can take. Yes, I will be using my mana here. I'll get some green mana. We will not be using its ability. We'll play out a Thespian Stage. We'll pass the turn. So this is just a 6 mana 6/6 trampler. We're never going to choose to do the searching unless our opponent doesn't have an opposition agent or the ability to put one in. But it is the biggest thing on the board. It dodges Lightning Bolt, so maybe it's okay. It dodges Fatal Push. Bloodchief's Thirst can be kicked to kill it. And Snuff Out is very much a card. Lightning Bolt, our face. Okay. I honestly think Opposition Agent is a scarier card to play against than Blood Moon for this deck. Tapping a lot of mana over there. Feels like they're hard casting a Snuff Out. Okay, kicks Bloodchief's Thirst. Same difference. Okay. So we take 5 this turn. Okay, so we got another Cloudpost. What is this? Snapcaster Mage. Okay, so they're just going to Lightning Bolt us and kill us now. Sure. Alright, that was a very miserable matchup because of Opposition Agent. And we didn't really have an answer to Opposition Agent. And we kind of lost to it. Like, if we'd have drawn some other stuff, maybe. Like, this is one of the reasons we bought it in Opposition, the Endurances, so that we can have, like, a mid-range threat to, like, contest Opposition Agents and things like that. But we kind of just needed to draw some of our top end there. And we had a lot of mana, but we just didn't really get anywhere. You don't see Grixis Control every day. I don't think it's great right now, but I guess Snuff Out's very good. So maybe it might be the best control deck with Snuff Out, which is why people are playing it. So it's nice to see something a bit different for a change. So yeah, cool. Full power to you, Grixis man. Let's go on to the final round and see if we can get a 3-2 and get our money back. Alright, this hand seems pretty good. Let's see what we're working with. We're on the play as well, which helps. So we've already got a forest. I don't really want another forest. The Reclaimer is a nice option here. The Vesuva is also pretty nice because that gives us another Cloudpost. I think that's probably better than the Reclaimer here. Let's get Vesuva and play Cloudpost. Next turn we can play Vesuva on Cloudpost. We could get Wasteland this turn, which would be sad, but okay, no Wasteland. Step 1. Okay, it looks like we might be on a Delver matchup here. That looks very Delvery to me. So this crop rotation might be what we call a liability, but we'll see. Well, we've drawn another one, so that's always lovely. Okay, so this matchup's probably going to be a little bit tricky game 1, but gets better post-board, I think, when we bring in our Endurances. Wasteland, sure. That's a good one. Delver didn't flip though, so that's nice for us. And a Ponder. So what we're probably going to do is play a forest and hold up a crop rotation in case they try and hit our Cloudpost. And Glimmerpost. I don't think that's worth holding up for. I think we just play out our forest and carry on with our lives. Next turn we can play a Green Suns, potentially. Okay, so there's the Wasteland. So we're going to float this and we're going to cast a crop rotation, sacrificing this Cloudpost they've just targeted with a Wasteland. Paying around days here. Brainstorm. Okay, our opponent wants to do something with this. A Force of Will is pretty good here, to be fair. It's probably worth burning it, if you can. Okay, Force of Will. So, we got a 3 for T, but we are a little bit far behind now. And they can drop a Murktide next turn, which will probably kill us. So, we're going to need a little bit of help. Play this Glimmerpost to gain ourselves a life. So we can either Green Suns now or hold up the crop rotation. I think we should just Green Suns. No, we need to get the Green Suns for the... yeah, we need Green Suns for the purposes of getting an Endurance into play, I think, here. I think that's the only way we actually survive long enough in this game. Now, if they play a Murktide this turn, we probably just lose. Oh, Boseiju, why can't you hit everything? Why can't you just be the best card ever? Instead of just being really, really good. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay, that's not so bad. It's still pretty bad, but it's not Murktide bad. A Glimmerpost. This keeps us alive for a little bit longer. So we could try and get greedy and try and get a Cloudpost next turn with this crop rotation. Depends if we think our opponent's got Force of Will or if our opponent's got Daze. If our opponent's got Daze, we want to crop rotate. If they've got Force of Will, we do not. A Lightning Bolt to our face. Sure. Like, we'll still do it. Wait to see if our opponent has a Wasteland, because then we might want to do crop rotation around Wasteland. Okay, so this is the Murktide turn. We can't do anything about it. Oh, that's not true. We could have crop rotated for the Bojuka Bog right there. A Delver of Secrets. So we are 100% dead next turn. So we can't really crop rotate right now. Okay, we're on the Glacial Chasm line. We'd rather do it now so that we're not doing it in our upkeep. I don't really want this Misty Rainforest. So I think the play here is... We could turn this into a forest. No, I think we just want to... We'll sacrifice this Misty Rainforest here. So we get this Glacial Chasm, which means we have to sacrifice a land. So I think we probably sacrifice our forest here. So what our plan is now is sit behind the Glacial Chasm for a few turns, Green Sun Zenith for Ramunap Excavator, hope that it resolves and that it lives, and then we can rebuy it. Daze has entered the revealed card zone. That's good to know. Like, at any point, a Wasteland just completely collapses our house of cards here. But we've got some turns. Not many. Once Upon a Time. That's a pretty good one. We get to play around a Daze here. I think we cast it now. So do you want a Glimmerpost or do you want a Cloudpost? A Glimmerpost gives us more life so we can turtle for longer. A Cloudpost gives us more mana in general. I think we get the Cloudpost here. Glimmerpost provides us with 3 life. We have a Vesuva which can become a Glimmerpost. We'll take the Cloudpost. We have this Daze that we need to play around and all sorts. Mishra's Bauble. We still have that Daze we know about, so let's make sure we pop it out so we don't forget about it. Force of Will was earlier. Going to be challenging here. So we need to pay for this one. We can't afford to pay next turn, so we have to resolve our little guy here. So that means we probably need the Cloudpost into play this turn. That gives us enough mana to pay around Daze. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So we get to... So we let our Glacial Chasm die, then we cast a Green Sun Zenith for 3, paying around Daze. That comes in, we play the Glacial Chasm. And then provided we can keep our guy alive, which is a bit of a tall ask, we cannot pay this. If they have a Lightning Bolt, we die immediately. So we have to cast this for green. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on, not 4. X is currently 1, 2, 3. So playing around the Daze, we know. Force of Will kills us here. Lightning Bolt kills us. Unholy Heat kills us. Okay, and we are donezos. Alright, game 2. We've got some good sideboard options here in Endurances and Carpet Flowers. The crop rotation's pretty bad against the deck that wants to be countering spells. Collector Ouphe doesn't do anything, so that's pretty easy cuts. Ramunap Excavator is pretty nice against a Wasteland deck. Will our opponent play Blood Moon? That is a question. I think we can probably trim on... We're looking at trim on here. The Reclaimer is definitely going to eat Lightning Bolts, but if it sticks, it's very powerful for us. Once Upon a Time can't hit Carpet, so maybe we're trimming on Carpets here. Trimming on Once Upon a Times. I think this is what we're rolling with here. Maybe we'll have one... Yeah, let's get rid of one. Expedition map. So we maybe want to force Blood Moons, but we have 2 Boseijus in our deck. What does this hand do? This makes an uncounterable Elvish Reclaimer. And then what is the question? Yikes. I don't really like this hand very much. We're asking quite a number of the cards in our hand to do a lot of work. Just get a hand with Carpet is probably just better. Having to play the Cavern of Souls out on the Elvish Reclaimer doesn't feel very good either. So play this on 1, and then turn 2 we're playing just Expedition. I think we can mulligan and get a better hand here. Oh, if this had a green mana source, it would be real good. Okay, this hand is good. We'll keep this one. So you've got a payoff. Got this Carpet. Got this Endurance I'd like to keep. I think we're probably bottoming the Pithing Needle right now. I think it is the Pithing Needle. And the Stage, right? If we had a different setup of mana, we would probably be playing this out. We would probably be bottoming the Primal Titan and keeping the 3rd land. Or the Pithing Needle or whatever. Okay, we immediately got... So the Carpet Flowers was kind of the thing we were hoping to undo our mulligan a little bit. So it might just be getting Delvered here. And a Glimmerpost. We don't need to play that out now. We can just play out basics. And then hold up our Endurance for when the time comes. When we see what we draw next turn, we'll decide if we're going to try and hold up with the Endurance to play around days or not. A Boseiju. Okay. We'll just play out the Glimmerpost and gain ourselves 1 life. This isn't really worth wastelanding either. So we can play the Endurance round a... what do you call it? Days if we want to. If they play like a Blood Moon this turn. Okay. So we want our Endurance to actually catch some of their resources as well in the graveyard. I think we just hold up with the Endurance for now. Play the Endurance round of days. Okay, so now we're actually getting some stuff in their graveyard. Steam Vents tapped, sure. And they're cracking another fetch here. This could be like a really small Murktide. I think we throw this out now. Shuffle all these lands that we want our opponent to draw back into their library. Keeps them off Murktide. Murktide, again, like I said, wouldn't be very big, but I think it's worth keeping them off of Delirium and all sorts. Expressive Iteration, that's fine. It's not great for us, but it's fine. So we have the Reclaimer that we can field now, and over the course of 2 turns that can get us an uncounterable Primeval Titan, which should be game. Our opponent not having any threats is interesting to me. We have a 2 forests, so we can beat the Blood Moon if they have it. Are they going to wasteland us on the upkeep? Okay, we just play this one out. I don't think our opponent's going to have brought in like a small sweeper here, like Brotherhood's End or something like that. I don't think they're going to bring that in against us. So I'm going to play out the 2nd Reclaimer. So next turn we can get both of the lands that make our Primeval Titan tick. If they start wastelanding us, we can just go on the beatdown plan because we're going to have a bunch of 3/4s which line up very well against most Delver threats apart from Murktide. Lightning Bolt, sure. So I'm glad we played out 2. We're going to Lightning Bolt the other one as well. They are, sure. Another wasteland, sure. We do have the threat in play right now. We have a choice here of whether or not we play out the Cloudpost. If they wasteland both of these lands and we don't play out the Cloudpost, we can't cast another Endurance. So I think we just have to suck it up and eat the wasteland here. So they can cast a Murktide now. Weird that they did it that way rather than using the wastelands and exiling those to pay costs. Very odd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can cast Primal Titan, but it's not around a days. We can't play around days. I think we're just supposed to cast this on this turn. Maybe we're supposed to play the Primal Titan and just say, if you have it, you have it, and we lose. So if we get this Cloudpost, it's definitely going to get wastelanded. But that's the thing we just need to deal with, unfortunately. Our opponent's got a 4-turn clock. We also have a 4-turn clock. They get to start clocking first. But we can deploy more things. So they're going to have to start using these wastelands now. If we get a 2nd Endurance, we can double block the Murktide. Fascinating that they didn't use their wastelands. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6. I suspect this is getting Force of Will. They have hard-cast Force of Will available. Yeah, we have to get through that at some point. I don't think we can rely on drawing our singleton Cavern of Souls. Yes, we do have ways of tuning for it, but that's going to be quite slow. And then we just produce as much mana as we can and try and draw things. Endurance is a good draw. The more Primeval Titans are good draws. At the moment we can cast, what, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we can cast Emrakul the Promised End pretty easily. We can cast Ulamog. So we've got a lot of good draws. And I think we just need to overload our opponent's resources and eventually get there. Obviously, in the day and age of expressive iteration, not easy to do. by firing off Wastelands. They should do the calculation of how much mana we have and work out what we can cast and what they can cut us off casting by hitting our Cloudposts. Okay, they're giving us another island. So we're getting +1 mana from our Carpet Flowers. They're putting the Expressive Iteration on top for next turn. That grows their Murktide. It doesn't change the clock, and even if they had a Lightning Bolt, it doesn't change the clock. So we take this. So we can. It does change our clock now that they've taken some damage though from the fetch land. This is another Expressive Iteration. Our opponent's casting Price of Progress. I suspect. They're wastelanding their own thing. Yep. Okay, this is the Price of Progress. Sure. So they'll take 4 and we'll take 2, 4, 6, 8 and die. That's the end of that one. Sure. So we went 2-3. Let's have a quick chat about the deck. So our record today was the worst record I've had with Cloudpost. Now I've only played it twice before. I think I definitely 4-1'd one of them and only just missed out on the trophy. And I might have done the same with the second one, or I might have only got a 3-2. But even so, I definitely got better than 2-3. So what happened today? Well, we did play against 2 Opposition Agent decks, and the Grixis decks with Opposition Agent really had our number there. So that was pretty annoying. We drew relatively cold as well underneath the Opposition Agent. It blanked so many of our draws. So we basically didn't get to play Magic for like 4 or 5 turns in a row. So, yeah. And also, in that game as well, we had this Misty Rainforest, which I said at the top maybe should just be a forest. And if it was a forest, we would have been able to possibly cast some green spells. So I think Misty Rainforest in this deck is objectively bad, and it should just be a basic forest. We also lost well, we didn't lose the game because we had Glacial Chasm in hand, but we should have brought out Glacial Chasm in the Bant matchup. We didn't. So what happened is we played against some control decks that we weren't really expecting to face given the current meta. But I imagine this deck is normally okay-ish against those sorts of decks, because if they're going long, then you just do your thing and get them. But then they had Primeval Titan into Wasteland, and Life from the Loam is pretty bad for us. We lost to Delver, which is the best deck in the format. You're going to lose to it sometime. It's a Wasteland deck with loads of permission and quick clocks. It didn't feel like we were a million miles away from winning some of those. Like if they'd have not had the Force of Will when they did, we would have been alright, or we would have had some more turns. They didn't have a Murktide. If we'd have drawn another Endurance earlier, we could have done some stuff. So there was definitely options where we could have drawn better. But part of the problem with this deck is that you're a deck that is basically drawing 1 card a turn, and some of those draws will do nothing. And you have an engine that you have to set up underneath you, but you can't set up that engine if you're getting wastelanded with a threat on the board, because they just clock you too quickly. So this deck was... I played this against the Mono White Initiative deck a few times in previous leagues, and I found it was quite good against the Mono White Initiative deck, purely because they are playing out stuff but not affecting your mana base. So you get to deploy all your Cloudposts and stuff like that, and then you can set up a Glacial Chasm loop, which I've done against them, I think pretty much every game against them, the Mono White Initiative player, until I could just cast Emrakul and win the game. Now, I don't think this deck should necessarily be running Emrakul. I think having the top end stuff is good, but having a bit more middle range stuff to get you there might just be better. Now, quite how that would look in a deck, I don't know. It feels like we need something around the 3 mana mark to like push us forward a little bit and give us a bit of momentum. And I'm not sure what that should be. I don't think Tireless Tracker or anything like that is where you want to be. You need, or like some of the 3 mana guys that go and get a land out your deck and put it into play. I don't think that's where we want to be. I think it just needs something else to give us a bit of velocity and give us an extra turn. I know once upon a time the Cloudpost decks did run Explore as a card that cantrips and kind of advances you a turn, because 1 turn of you making land drops in this deck is really strong. And I'd be interested to try and play an Explore build again. I say again, I've never played one, but I remember seeing them years ago at my local store when I used to play a lot. So maybe that's something I'll try. I'm not sure. I really like the Cloudpost deck, but it does feel a bit brutal sometimes. And I think you can't afford to have any like fat on your deck. You need to trim it so it's as lean as possible to do the thing it's supposed to do. And I don't think having this one of Misty Rainforest, I know it's only a little thing, but I don't think that's worth having in this deck. So I think you want to trim that. And maybe Collector Ouphe should be in the sideboard. Maybe that isn't a main deck card anymore. And you can have, like, Endurance is objectively better in the main deck. Even a second one, I think. But maybe that's where you can, like, find some extra slots. And the Emrakul, I don't think we need that. Yes, it's another thing that we can draw. But Primeval Titan is another thing that you could draw that's also going to be a darn sight cheaper to cast. So maybe there's definitely some tweaks to be made to this list to optimize it. But again, you're not going to fight against Grixis control and Bant control that often in leagues. So maybe this is better for what you're more likely to find, where you're going to find more decks that are Collector Ouphe-ing you or whatever. Alright, I think that's us done for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. It wasn't the most successful league we've ever run, but there was some cool stuff going on there. We had some good games and we had some funny situations. So what more can you ask for? Alright, if you're still here, like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing and they help me out. And if you really want to go the extra mile and help me out, why not post my content to like your local Discords or your forums that you're on or Reddit or whatever, and get more people watching my content would really help. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers so I can get monetized as soon as possible. If you can help me do that, I'd be very grateful. Alright, thank you for watching and goodbye.